Hello. I'm glad that all of you joined us today. It's already 11:30, so I will start little by little. And I assume that many of you already know Peero or Davidas. If no, then today we will have a chance to get know each other. And I am Peero, customer success specialist, and today, I and my colleague Unda will be happy to answer any Peero-related questions that arise during webinar. You can write them in the chat or ask them during a discussion at the end of webinar. And taking into account that today we want not only share our experience, but also listen you. And while we are waiting everyone to join, I offer you to participate in small anonymous survey, which will outline what interests you the most, as well as highlight the topics that we will discuss in the next hour. I will share my screen. You can maybe prepare your mobile devices. And so you can scan this QR code, or also, you can visit webox.app page and use this ID number to join the survey. Let's wait everyone who wants to participate to join. Yeah, and first of all, let's find out why you have joined us today. And also, you can use several options. See that people are still joining the survey. I will wait a little bit. Yeah, and let's see the main reasons why you are with us today. So mostly, for people, this topic is interesting. I see that some people wants to know more about Peero, also about Davidas. And as I mentioned before, you can write your questions to the Davidas in chat also. And in the end, we will have this small discussion where you can share your opinion about things, ask questions to us too. And as we will discuss organization values today, let's find out how things are going with them in your organization. You can choose only one option. Yeah, so let's go. Oh, most of you know your organization values very well. I see that some know, but maybe won't be able to name them all. And for some companies, organizational values is not priority. And also, feedback culture, and maybe about Peero. So Peero is offering feedback tool and feedback analytics for employees and managers. And we are curious to find out how things are going with feedback in your company. So maybe you can share with your answers. A little bit, and let's see the results. Yeah, most of people regularly receive feedback or sometimes, what is very good. And yeah, unfortunately, in some companies, as I see, you are not giving feedback. Yeah, but feedback culture and culture overall and employee needs can be very difficult in every company, and we would like to know from whom it is important for you to receive this feedback. Okay, let's see results. Oh, so yeah, we don't have such question in poll, but I'm sure that most of the people would like to receive feedback not only from all colleagues and managers, but one would like to receive this feedback frequently too. And yeah, so what tools and opportunities are used in your organization to develop and improve culture? In this question, also multiple answers are possible. Okay. Team buildings for sure, very often. And I see that there is a lot of companies who are already using Peero with this. So very nice. Maybe later you can share your experience with Peero. And yeah. Also, yeah, and this will be the last question before I will give microphone to David. Does the existing organization culture satisfy you? Okay, some nuances should be worked on for almost 15%. Yeah, for sure, organization culture is something with what you should work, I think, maybe all the time to improve, to make it better, to make your employees more satisfied with work environment. And yeah, today we will try to find ways how organization culture can be improved. And I'm giving a microphone to our first speaker, Davidas. Yeah. Hello, Davidas.
Okay. Hello. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm really excited to have a chance to join this meeting. And yes, so I saw that a majority of the participants coming from Latvia, most probably because I see Latvian names. So we have a few Lithuanians, so labdien, laba diena. And please give me a chance to share my slides and give me a sign that you already can see them. Is everything okay? Yes? Ilona?
Yes, we can see them.
Okay, you can see them. Okay, so I'm turning on and I'm starting that, yes, I'm coming from training and consulting company, which was started in 2004 in Lithuania. And actually on the next year, we're going to celebrate anniversary of 20 years of our experience, which gives me a chance to take a role of someone who has a luxury to enter into the different companies and into the different organizations and have a chance to feel, to see and check how they are living and working. And this time I'm going to share my evaluation on something what we experienced on organizational culture projects or values projects in 2022 in Lithuania, mainly because Majority of our projects were started and continued in Lithuania, but the important message for you guys is that after 20 years of experience, on January this year, we decided with your colleague Uldis Pavlos in Latvia and maybe our common friend Indrek Raki in Estonia to merge our companies, and from this year we are giving a chance for ourselves to say that TMD Partners is a span-Baltic company. We're only one training and consulting company which covers all three Baltic countries. And if Peero will decide to ask me to join one or another meeting in a year, so I think that I will have a chance to share my pan-Baltic experience about values and projects in a companies. So stepping further from this background, or stepping further from this experience and this environment that I'm coming from, I can see that in 2022 we had over around 800 training days or project days, because beside the trainings we have survey experience, because we do survey on values on 360-degree and employee satisfaction or engagement. Also, we provide individual consultation. So I see that we spent around 800 days with different clients and different projects in the last year. And all this experience gives me a chance to say that, I have never experienced any company, I have never faced or met any company without any organizational culture or company values. It means that my question is always is the environment that was created or somehow appeared by itself, or it was the company culture or company values or principles, or we can call them as ever we want, but were created by our conscious efforts and conscious understanding what kind of a company culture and values we have to have. And usually this is the situation that some of the companies, they dedicate time and efforts to find out, to discuss, to agree, to support and to develop these values or elements or any other elements of organizational culture. Or we have a company that would like to play a bit more actively with the success factor and give ourselves a chance to believe that everything is going to be okay with our climate or with our organizational culture. So the last year is a bit different from, I would say, last 5 years or even last 6 or 7 years, because our company experiences that we have never had so many corporate culture projects and value projects in 1 year. So it means that, I don't know, guys, do you have a similar feeling that I have? But I may say as an external partner for many organizations that something is happening with us, with people working in business companies and governmental institutions. But this topic of well-being or mental health or importance of how do we feel at work is becoming more and more important and active. And I think that this is one of the reasons why it happens, so that companies are starting to dedicate much more time, and we are planning and placing higher budgets for such activities. And when Yanis contacted me by asking, okay, maybe you would like to bring kind of evaluation of how do you see the market, or what is your experience in Lithuania? I said that yes, I would be very happy to do it, because I'm thinking and I'm awaiting these facts for myself, because I'm planning my activities and I'm planning income and projects and services what we are going to deliver in the market for the next year. And my evaluation comes, from different factors, but one of them is that I'm asking myself, okay, what kind of companies suddenly started to approach us and started to look for a chance to discuss how it would be possible to grow, to change, or to develop organizational culture, and especially values element of a culture. Because I think this is a similar situation in other countries like we have in Lithuania. But when we speak about organizational culture, usually we speak about the vision of a company, the mission of a company, and company values. Every time when we discuss company values, we put very concrete behaviors, because sometimes we see the situation that company says that, okay, one of our possible values is cooperation, but if we don't see very concrete behaviors behind the values, I can promise that for this company, it's just a question of time when it will become very difficult to measure our employees or colleagues behaving according to this value or no. So every time when we speak about the values, we understand that it comes in a complex, that we have a name of a value or the names of the values, but we have to have behaviors behind them. So when I evaluate the market, or when I evaluate the companies with whom somehow we worked the most, during the last year, I see that I experience kind of a boost with those companies who are family business companies, especially where younger generation steps into the lead position, and it means that yeah, I would be able. Maybe later, sometimes it's a bit confidential information, sometimes not, but some of the companies that were started by our fathers or mothers in 90s already get into the situation that the owners of the starters of a company are making a decision to step out, and younger generation is asked or involved into the business. And if this question of company values was not so much, on a first page for the status of a company, but when I face someone who is coming from studies in abroad, or someone who spent some of the years together with parents by running this company, but now is becoming fully responsible for the company future, these people, we are starting to approach us much more often than their parents by telling that, yes, we are having experience of 20, 25 or 30 years already with the company, but we think that we became mature enough to start to discuss and create these values and these behaviors. So for those who are planning to have activities, projects, or services with connected with an organizational coach, I suggest that it would be a great idea if you would start to list for yourself all the family companies in a country and start to observe when and who is going to give a floor or a top position for a younger generation, because this is just a question of, okay, I would say half a year or year, when these young generation leaders, we will bring this question onto the agenda, and you would be the best partners or trainers or consultants for them to help them to realize and implement it in a daily life. Another group of companies that also surprised me a bit more than I expected. I would call them local companies, and maybe this is just a situation in Lithuania, or maybe we have a similar situation in other countries around Lithuania also, but I would say that mainly these are production companies. And in the past, these were companies that operated locally, but on one or another moment, we decided to be a bit more active internationally. So we started to visit fairs. We started to have contracts with foreign buyers or clients or partners. And somehow with all this international experience and with this possibility to discuss different questions with international partners, these companies are becoming much more international, and with all this international level and with all this international experience, I see that these companies are starting to come to us by telling that, we are comparing ourselves and our services with other companies, and we compete in this area, and we see that companies, doesn't matter in Sweden, Norway, Germany, other countries, we think and we talk with our clients about the organizational culture. They are presenting their values, so we would like to be at the same page, and we would like to have a possibility to realize for ourselves what is our company culture, and we would like to work with the values and So I think that all these opportunities that our local businesses are facing all around the world also gives kind of a kick for them to be a bit more developed companies and to dedicate more efforts and time and resources to work with something what we call organizational culture, and help them to create and to develop and implement values into the company. And the third group in my last year was, I called them older style sectors. And, it's very difficult somehow it's to describe that sector, but in my experience, it was agricultural companies, logistic companies, engineering and construction companies that I would say were very profitable during the last 5 or 4 years. And they hadn't any need to focus or to concentrate because we were happy to be able to deliver everything what is asked from our customers to be delivered. But when the competition started to be a bit more active and a bit more warmer, so these companies started to realize that it's not so easy to attract new employees. It's not so easy to keep employees in a company. And again, the competitors who are coming from international companies, international players, we used to have very often these things when we call mission, vision, and company values. So somehow we started to realize that, okay, we need to dedicate time and efforts for this situation and for this development also. So I can say from our company experience that, yes, we have never worked so many with agricultural companies like we did in the last year. And we have never worked so much with logistic companies and production companies or construction companies on these corporate culture levels or value levels. And for me, somehow it becomes, a good chance to start to understand and to feel how people or how companies are doing in the regions. Because again, our situation is that majority of them were started or based some time ago somewhere in the regions. It's not necessary that agricultural, logistic, engineering companies are coming from a capital city. So in our experience, very often we are based somewhere in the regions. And I see that this topic of the values, which is a bit like a soft topic among the business people, when we meet in a Rotary Club or Lions Club, sounds a bit, a bit out of the agenda, but now it becomes really like active and important. And if we put always like a different elements into one, if we zoom all these elements, and if we have like a company that was started like 25 or 30 years ago somewhere in a region, which company was a family business, and parents of a company or owners of a company decides to move away and give a position for the younger generation. And if this younger generation starts to act more internationally, so I can guarantee for the Peero and for the Peero partners that this is just a question of time when this company will start to search and Google and look for someone who is going to help to create something that was not so much important in the last, I would say, 10, 15 or 20 years ago. So maybe the situation is similar in Latvia and in other countries, but if I was asked to share my evaluation, that's my company facts that these are the sectors that usually approached us, or these are the sectors that our sales team was dedicated to look for, because in a company we have a separate team of a few people who are 100% salespeople. And I can say that if we succeed to find and to look to the companies that fulfill these criteria, we were successful to get projects on our agenda. And when I understand for myself that the list of companies are quite long who started to look for a partner, I also asked myself to sit a bit aside and to reflect on why these things are happening, why this topic is becoming more and more, important and present when it was during the COVID or before the COVID. And I know that most probably you would make your own list, but if I was invited or asked to share my evaluation, I started to think that one thing which impacted, I think, our present situation is that remote or that flexible work environment really raised the trust question or the trust issue. It means that before the COVID, it was one situation when we had a chance to meet on a daily basis in office. We had the chance to have lunches and coffee breaks all together. But now when this new reality became already really like a new reality, because I know that even my company, we do not meet on a daily basis in office because we give a chance for the colleagues to work from home also. And in the beginning, somehow we trust and believe that those who are working on remote way, they are doing it 100%. But day by day or week by week, somehow these questions silently start to appear. Do we really dedicate so much efforts like we did before? Do we really work so many hours like we did before? So I think that the time just came to touch these sensitive core questions. How do we behave and how can we trust into each other? And all these instruments and discussions, sessions, workshops, and different IT platforms and instruments covers that kind of a need, because we want to be sure that in this new reality we can continue to work with the same good mood and with the same level of a high trust in a company, because it's already agreed among us that trust, for example, is one of the most important values in a company. But I see that these companies that experience difficulties, they see it as an opportunity to bring people into one group and to organize something that leads or that gives them a chance to discuss and chance to agree what is important and what we trust, what we support, and how we behave. Doesn't matter we're in office or we are working from home. Another thing that I'm feeling really very actively is that we as a human beings, we as employees of one another company, we become more and more self-aware, and I can tell that now if I would remember year 2000, 2005, 2010, doing the coffee breaks and doing the lunch break, participants were talking a lot about different parties. It means at what time did we go to sleep, or how long did we party, with whom we party, what kind of drinks we used, and things like that. Next phase, I would say, of a change, of a possible change have happened, or I started to feel it spending time together with people. It was around 2014, 15, 16, when people started to share that, okay, I'm running marathons, and I'm meditating, I'm doing yoga, I'm bicycling, and I'm doing other sports and other active things. And now when I spend time together with people, I see that they are asking even the much deeper questions by asking each other, okay, what kind of school you are meditating, what kind of running practice you are using. It means that we are really reading much more books about self-awareness. We are really watching much more YouTube and other things that gives us a chance to understand us as a personalities better. Which most probably leads us to the understanding that each of us, we have our personal values, and these values are becoming more and more important for every single person around us. And when we start to realize that if we have 24 hours per day, and if we minus those hours when we sleep, and we calculate how many hours of rest we spend at work, somehow it becomes for us important not only what we are doing at work, but also the question how we are working together, or how we are dealing together, how we are collaborating, or how we're solving difficult situations becomes much more important. I also have a feeling that besides the question what was done or what was achieved, I face a long list of companies or managers of companies that are motivated, or we are receiving the KPIs not only on what has to be done or what has to be achieved, but also on the way how people are involved or how people are engaged in a company. So this question how becomes really at the same importance like question what. And when I reflect for myself, I think that always workshop and situations and projects related with company values is a perfect way to have a platform to discuss how we are going to work and how we are going to look for the results in the future. And last but not the least bullet point from myself, I feel and I have a feeling that the labor market is now for the employees. It means that majority of the companies that we're working with, they are complaining and they are telling that it's really a difficult situation to find good candidates. It's difficult to find and keep the talents or the top performers in a company. And when people are coming into the conversations, we are asking a question about the company culture or the corporate culture and the values of a company much more often and much more seriously than it was in the past. And what is very good news for the Peero and other similar companies that these people, they are not asking what kind of values you are living in a company, but we are also asking the second and the third question, which usually are the questions how you are supporting and how you are developing these company values, because I think that we became mature enough with understanding that to have company values somewhere written on a wall, on a website, or just agreed and put somewhere in a file folders is not enough and it's not okay. So people, they are starting to be curious and interested in a way how company is keeping these values alive. And when we have a chance to provide the similar answers that you provided during the short survey in the beginning of the webinar, when companies say that okay, we are using Peero, we are doing team buildings, we are having breakfast, we are discussing, we are doing company summer, I don't know, winter events based on our company values. When candidates we start to trust and to believe that these are not like empty words, but we are going to have these company values, but we start to believe that we are going to experience, and having in mind that these like a promises from a company somehow has a link with my personal values gives a chance for the good candidates to join the company, or for the talents of a company gives additional reason to stay long in a company. And I think that this element of higher or stronger self-awareness also gives like additional kicker for the companies even to look again at their companies, or to refresh or renew them, but also to have a bit more qualitative description of what kind of behaviors we have behind one another company. So actually, the funny thing is that when we speak about each of us individually and when we grow, we naturally grow our companies, and I'm really very, very happy to experience and to feel it that companies are becoming more and more interesting into the way how we are doing, how we are discussing, how we are solving, how we are living. So comparing the present year with experience that they had in the market 10, 15 or 20 years ago is much more positive, because I have very clear understanding what we are moving towards the stronger mental health, stronger well-being in the companies. And thanks a lot for the Peero that you give very concrete instruments how we can continue to keep these values alive, because this like a line is the line where we stop as a training and consulting company, because usually we arrange workshops, discussions, surveys in other companies would be able to get to the understanding what is their company values and what is behind, what are the behaviors behind them. But the next natural and question that is always asked from my clients, okay, so thank you very much. Now we have values and the behaviors, but how we can keep them alive, how we can grow up, and how we can develop them. So I think that you have an amazing place and opportunities for the business, because yes, if we are now in a process of refreshing, renewing, or creating these values, so I would say that every time one company agrees to do it, this is the next possible like a challenge for them, how to keep them alive. And I think that everyone who is going to do it will have a chance to approach you and give a chance for the business. So that's my short reflection from my experience in 2022. Maybe it's similar to yours, maybe it's a bit different, maybe it's something that you was reflecting for yourself, maybe no, but I had a chance to share, I had a chance to stop and to reflect. So thank you guys for attending this webinar. Thank you guys for the reason for me to make a pause, to stop and to reflect. And this is what I'm thinking about the last year, and these are my feelings or my guessings for the future. So I was really very happy with the chance to share these thoughts with you. If you have any questions, I think that later we will have a chance to discuss. and I will stay at this webinar till the very end. So on one or another moment, I will be able to share even like deeper or more. I will be able to answer to the questions. So I'm promising that I will step and be active participants at the further parts of the webinar.
Thank you, David. This very much. Yeah, for sure. You can, as I mentioned, you can write questions during webinar 2. In the end, we will discuss some things. And now, so my colleague Unda, so from Peero, I'm giving microphone to you.
Thank you, Ilona. Thank you, David. That was really insightful, and I really enjoyed your the information and experiences that you shared. I even jotted down questions myself that I will ask them after I show the slides. But I really encourage everyone that has joined in to use the chat. Feel free to share not even your questions, but also your experiences. What have been the struggles in connection to company culture and values during last year, even right now, previously, and how maybe you have tackled them. I do see some familiar names here, so some people and companies who are already using Peero, so I'm really glad that you have joined as well. Some of you, especially the Latvians, maybe you have already joined the Latvian webinar, well, where you will see where you saw the information that I'm just about to present. So yeah, nothing major changes there, only in English. So yeah, but the story of Peero and the Peero values in 2002. Uh, we have prepared like a short summary of how the values were living and thriving in 2002, what was going on in the companies based on the data that we see every day in different companies across not only the Pan-Baltic, but also in Europe and all across the globe. Yeah, it's been very insightful that I can say for sure. We do these summaries every year at the beginning of the new year. And I must say, like the last 2, 3 years have been quite interesting given the global events that have been going on. Like in 2020 or 2019, I don't know, like Australia was on fire. America was flooding, Europe was flooding, then came the COVID, the hybrid, the remote work, and everything like that. And now last year, end of February, really close to us, to most of us who has joined here, an active war, Russian invasion of Ukraine. So given the close proximity to these events for us, not only as companies, but also just put yourself in the shoes of a simple employee, there has to be some kind of anxiousness about the situations that have been going on because we just survived COVID and now this. So we already have the experience. We know that this can become very unstable very fast, and it can show in our values and our company culture as well. I'm sure that all of you experienced that. But when it comes to Peero values, the values don't change dynamically based on global events. These are the values that the company has defined, either from top down or from bottom up, and these are the values that we want to live. These are the values that will guide us through the struggles, keep us together, keep us stronger. And I must say that it really showed last year. So if we look at this Peero values wrapped. Some of you who use Spotify will get the reference. So last year, a lot of companies who have been using already Peero for quite a while, and some other companies who had just started to use Peero, started this journey of maybe defining or redefining or starting to live their values like in the actual everyday life. And the first great thing that we noticed is that overall, compared to the previous year, we shared twice as more feedback in the app as in 2001, 21, sorry. So this was a really great thing for us to see because this just shows that people start to appreciate each other more and more. The topic becomes more important in the companies, and people actually understands why it matters. On average, in each company that we saw, each person shared around 24 feedbacks a year. That means around 2 a month. So just saying thanks in a written format to a colleague twice a month, which we actually consider the bare minimum. So great that we are there. We're not below that. But there was one company, and I can quietly say that we do have representatives from this company in this call, where each employee shared 72 feedbacks a year. And this is a great, great result. We were very happy to see this. This company not only understands the values, but also the power of peer-to-peer feedback. So this is something that anyone should aim for. Even though you don't use Peero, this is how often the positive feedback should be going on in your company. But what about the values? So we have a lot of companies using Peero app, and as some of you know, you can define the values where people share the feedback with each other yourselves. So you have different names for your values, different topics, different themes, different languages that we have to work through. And overall, last year we saw 154 different values, and that's like very detailed for us to do any kind of summary. You do see on the screen already the main topics that these values resolved around, but they are presented in different ways, right? Some of the companies actually use like emojis to express their values, so we have to translate that. So what do we do with the 154 values? We actually went through each and every one of those, and we categorized them in 9 different value groups or themes or topics. And the ones that you see on the screen are teamwork and collaboration. So anything that to do with communication with another person, diligence and engagement. So actually being an engaged employee, someone who is willing to do the work, to do the grunt work. Then we have, of course, support and kindness. So being helpful to each other, being helpful to the company, goal oriented. This is a very common value that we actually see in a lot of apps. Respect, honesty, trust, innovation and growth. Innovation and growth is actually another very popular value group that we see in a lot of companies. Professionalism, leadership. I always enjoy the companies where they have a value regarding any type of leadership. And then we had one value that we just couldn't crack. And we didn't want to approach the company and ask them what it actually means, so we just put it in other. But that was only one value out of these 154. So with all of these categories, 154 values defined differently, we wanted to first see which of the values were the most popular, which of the group was the most popular. So by this, we mean what the companies actually want to be their culture. And we had the most values in diligent and engagement, innovation and growth, and support and kindness, as I mentioned. Of course, followed by teamwork and collaboration, leadership, and so on and so forth. So I am obviously the first 2, 3 places. These are like essentials for a good company culture, right? We want our employees to be engaged. We want our employees to work hard, but to be happy about it, not to come grumpy to work and just eat ground and do all the hard work with no enjoyment, right? Innovation and growth. Obviously, this is very important for any company that just wants to be sustainable, to grow and to innovate and become more and more successful. So this is something that we want to see in every culture, obviously. And support and kindness. So this goes straight hand in hand with the employee well-being, the microclimate in the company, that we are helpful, we are friendly, we support each other in our endeavors, right? But yeah, just because like we have the most values in a specific category does not mean that these are the values that people actually live. These are the values that companies want to see in their companies, right? Um, So the question is, which category had the most shared feedback? Like instead of having these values, but in total, we do see there's quite a difference from the top three of the categories. So the most feedback by the absolute numbers went out for diligent and engagement, teamwork and collaboration, and leadership. And leadership was a great surprise for us because it hasn't ever been in the top three when it comes to these numbers. So we in 2002 we started to appreciate leadership, and I think everyone can connect the dots why. Uh, with our close proximity to global massive events in Ukraine, leadership was something that we were looking for in 2022 because this was uncharted territory for us. Um, but yeah, the more peers one app has, the more impact they have on the absolute numbers, right? So if I have a company with 1,000 employees where I have values for teamwork, for leadership, and for diligence, and I have an app that has respect, support, and something other, obviously one company has more impact on the results, right? Right. So, how can we objectively determine the value trends right now all across the globe? So, for us, it was really actually easy. We assigned each category to each value in the apps. We determined the popularity in 100% chart for each value, and then we derived the popularity from the average across all apps. So yeah, data analytics all the way. But here are the results. So just because in absolute numbers we see a different picture, actually, like all across different companies and different industries in different sizes and different geographies, the most popular values still revolve around teamwork and collaboration, diligence and engagement, support and kindness, and still leadership. We usually do a top three, but since leadership has been growing so fast in last year, I wanted to point this out here as well. So, teamwork and collaboration. And again, like if we talk precisely in the context only of Peero app, so this is peer-to-peer feedback. Obviously, we will recognize teamwork in this app if we are sending good works to a specific colleague. We appreciate working together with them. Diligence and engagement, we actually saw quite a lot of managers and people in manager positions sharing feedback for these values. So this is great. So managers appreciating the work that their employees are actually doing. Support and kindness, again, 2022 was really uncharted territory for us, and support was very important for us, not only in doing our job, but to actually feel good when we are doing this job. And leadership, again, I already elaborated that. So leadership definitely was a good surprise for us. And if we look like over the trends month over month, at the end of 2022, what I really enjoyed was seeing that diligence and engagement is becoming more and more popular, and I can already tell you that we are tracking this all the time, and the trend is going on still in 2023. So this becomes more and more important for people who are working in the same company. Teamwork and collaboration, I would say that it stays stable. There are a little bit of ups and downs, but it's still in the most going values in the companies. Leadership also. January and February already we saw a rise from 2021. At the end of 2021, values regarding leadership were around 5% only. So it was already spiking up then. Of course, over summer months, managers are going on vacations and someone is replacing them, doing a good job. So we appreciate these people as well, right? And support and kindness has taken the back seat at the end of the year, most probably because of diligence and engagement in this case. So, what can we conclude from all these charts and graphs and numbers? The first thing that I would say, like just from the sheer amount of the values that have been defined in each category, the companies do want this diligence and engagement from employees. So this is important just to keep us going, innovation and growth, so we can develop ourselves, and support and kindness, so we can make sure that the climate that our employees are working is the best one they can have to innovate and to grow. But in reality, we still are not in sync. While we do have diligent engagement and support and kindness, teamwork kind of knocks out innovation and growth out of this. And last year and the year before, we actually consulted a behavioral psychologist on on this data and on these issues, and the feedback that we got back, and the conclusion that we got back was that uh, people do not feel at their comfort zones right now in general. Like after COVID, with the war, with everything, we do not feel that we are in our comfort zone. And if we are not in our comfort zone, we are afraid to try to something new, because there are more risks involved, right? So you have to make the climate feel secure and to feel comfortable for all employees to get the innovation and growth going. So they feel safe that if they fall, they have safe landing, right? So this means that you have to communicate, you have to align, and you have to live your values. If you have defined innovation and growth, you have to communicate what it means, but you also have to communicate, don't be afraid to innovate. You are safe here. We have a great environment here. You should feel safe because we are trying everything that we can. Or if you feel that you don't, find out what you can do to make the people feel safe to innovate and grow in your company and grow the company along with it. So, my parting words in regards to this is to make 2023 your year of the values. Again, communicate, align, and live them. So thank you very much. If there are any questions, thoughts, ideas, please feel free to share them in the chat, or you can also turn on your mic and your camera. It's Friday. We're probably all smiling and happy. So yeah, feel free to share your information. But if anyone has a question, go for it. If not, maybe I can ask my question to Davidas. Uh, when you started your presentation, you talked about how you've been doing these projects not only in Lithuania but also the Pan-Baltic context. And the question that we usually get when we start to present or talk about Peero or introduce Peero in any kind of context is, what are the prerequisites for a company to start living their values? What makes them ready to do it?
I think that in a voice which tells that we need to discuss and we need to dedicate time. For me, it's like the best sign that you are already ready for this. The only important thing that I see that I would suggest, I would support. I do understand that this is my business, but some of the companies sometimes we are too confident, I would say, and because we decide that it's like a very simple things, we will do them by ourselves. So when you as a company owner, I don't know, CEO or an HR person, when you start to realize for yourself that okay, it would be important, I suggest that don't be lazy, pick up the phone and call someone in a market by telling that, okay, we are starting to think, maybe we can have a cup of coffee or a chance to discuss how it would be the best way for us to proceed, because it's much more cheaper and faster not to make that project like that in the beginning when you start in a very clear like a step 1, step 2, step 3. And I'm really sure that there is like a plenty experienced companies and people and freelancers around you that will give you a chance not to repeat the similar mistakes that other companies did. But for me, this is a sign when you start to feel that it would be great if we would have. That's a sign that yes, you are on a very like a good path for it, and you don't need to have like a prerequisites. You just need to understand for yourself what is step 1 and step 2 in order to make it in the best possible way.
Yeah, and it's probably important that like managerial positions, like C-level executives and all that are on board with that, right?
I have this is again the question is how much time do we have, but I have two very different approaches and
Mm.
two very different situations because in some of the companies there is a culture that company values or organizational culture comes from the top to down.
Yeah.
And some of the companies, and it was very active that approach in the past. They dedicate like a top level team members for a workshop. These people they discuss, they agree, and later we are steering with values and with behaviors down to the company. And there is like a legal way for that because C-level managers and owners of a company we have a right to have a company that we like to have. So we have a right to name these values. But another philosophy is that okay, values has to come from above. So now, for example, Barrett and other methodologies, we give tools how to make a survey by giving a chance to everyone in a company to name these values.
Mm.
And my reflection is that it doesn't matter from which direction you will come, because this is just a question of time when these like two parties we are going to meet each other. Because if we as a top managers team decide that about the values, sooner or later we will need to communicate them to everyone in a company. But if we asked from everyone in a company what are their suggestions for company values, sooner or later we as a top managers team we need to confirm and approve.
Yeah.
So I think that it's at the end of a story, at the end of a day, anyway, we need to collaborate and we need to agree because this is just a question of who will make the draft. The draft will come from top to down, or the draft will come from bottom to up. But after we agree in a company that these are the values and the behaviors, anyway, each of us is going to be equally important because based off our personal behaviors, these values are going to be more or less alive on a daily basis. So I think that I see actually that it goes differently in the beginning, but it ends in the same way. All of us are responsible for living with values on a daily basis.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Um, Yeah, and actually, I also remember you talked about on your own reflections how it's becoming more and more apparent that the companies with younger leaders that are driving these changes in the company, right? So I actually read a research paper. I think it was published last year, yeah, of the fact that 60% of millennial workforce will think about leaving their job in 2 years if they don't feel recognized, if they don't feel a sense of community and culture in their company workplace. So, yeah, and it was a really large scale research that I think it was Deloitte, the millennial survey, right? Yeah, that they did like on global global context. So the facts speak for themselves. We are on the precipice of a changing labor market. We have more and more millennials. Gen Z is entering, and Gen Z, I think, will present even more challenges as they can change their jobs as they want. So you have to make them feel connected to their workplace, definitely, right?
I agree because, for example, if to name other figures, American Management Association, we say that in a period after the COVID, because okay, we may say that we already are after the COVID,
Yeah.
but in the after COVID period, 86% of the companies they have vision, mission, values, and things like that. But the sad side of the facts are that just 40% of them are living with values in reality.
Yeah.
So this younger generation, I would say also like a braver older generation, we are now just a bit more active in naming that guys, these values, what we placed on a website or what we put on a wall is not really very alive in our company. So maybe we can do something with them. So if I would be a group or I would be a part of your survey from Lithuanian experience, I would add to your list of values one group of values, so one additional bullet point, sustainability, green
Oh, yeah.
economy, or something, social responsibility, or
Yeah.
something that goes a lot about how we impact environment and relationships and the world around us. So that's one like a piece of a list of values that you presented that I would add from my side, because yeah, this group of values I also experience quite often when we discuss what other possible values for one or another company.
Yeah, of course. The social responsibility
Yeah.
becomes more and more important to younger generation, especially. They want to see their employers actively engage in these topics, right? Because we're actually talking about their future.
Yeah. And we see, no, at least in our country, that this situation with war
Yeah.
also made a bit, but a negative impact to other social areas, because companies, really are very active in supporting Ukraine and all the projects that help them to survive and to stay. But resources, that we are allocating in companies for social activities, we didn't grow, very extremely. So it means that when we dedicate something to A, we're taking something from B, and other social responsibility areas, dogs, cats, kids, and things like that. I see that we are a bit losing from the situation. It's of course question of priorities, but I think that it is really also very important not to lose the balance, because we have many painful areas around us where we as a social responsible company may help with.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I guess that's all from me. If we don't have any more questions,
Yeah.
I suppose I'll say thanks to all of you who have joined. Ilona, last words, parting words from your side.
Yeah, I just want to say a big thank you to Davidas and you too, Unda, for sharing your thoughts and experience today, and for other participants who joined us today. So we will be glad to see you next time on other webinars. And anyway, you can always send any questions regarding this webinar to our email info@peero.app. And later we will have a recording of this webinar too. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much once again, and all the best for everyone who participated. And that's a question of time when we'll meet the next time. Thank you, guys.
Goodbye.
Thanks. Goodbye.
Bye.